Unconventional thinking and unconventional leadership looks and feels a little different. I will tell you quite often the outcomes are pretty incredible. Here's a little story from myself. I worked for a while with my civil engineering and land surveying background. I actually worked in developing property and land. What that that's hard to explain to the layperson, but basically where your house was probably built at some point was nothing but barren land, and somebody came along and said, we should put a house here, but actually we should put a group of houses here, and it would look like this. And somebody had to draw that up and make that something tactical and tangible in the world. And surveyors told them where to put the thing, and that's the background that I actually have, one of the careers that I've had along the way. Anyhow, while I was working in the developing world, it's a fast-paced world. A lot of things change. So you're working on figuring out lot sizes. What I was doing a lot of the time was figuring out lots for where houses would go in developments. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I worked for an incredible civil engineer and land surveyor. It was a brother and sister team. Anyhow, great opportunity. One thing that was really common though is in that process, there were multiple iterations of options for this property. They would go to city councils. The city council would say, yeah, we like this and that, but we don't like this or this. And then it would come back to us. We'd fix it and change it. Along the way, also, the developers themselves would, I want to change this. My point being, you have all of those iterations. Along the way, my boss was getting mowed over by the clients at times and their ideas. And we were winding up making many iterations. And I got caught in all of that, in the fact that my boss would come at me sometimes and be like, hey, why is this like this? I didn't tell you to change this. Like, you've made a mistake. And that was happening more and more. We were also really busy at the time. And I didn't fully recognize all of that. But what I did recognize is I could do something to make this whole communication a lot better. I started saving my iterations. We would complete them. I would print one huge, I can't even show you, but anyways, one really large 30 by 20, like big print of the piece that we had agreed on. And then I started keeping these all together, stacked up per project that we were working on. When I would receive emails, requests to make changes and so forth, or even if they were in person, I would literally write them. I would pull out my stack of plans and I would write them on there, and I would have my boss approve it before I made any of the changes. And where that came in super handy was down the line, when those developers would come along, and even when my boss would come along and say, you made these changes, then I could turn around from my desk, pull out these plans, I'd lay them out, and I'd be like, let's go through the changes. And they were dated and who gave me authorization to do it. It wound up making them so much more money in the end, because they were able to then go back to the developers saying, we've already made that change 3 times. And you've told it, you've had us adjust from there. We have to charge you for this next change. Like, we cannot continue to be doing this for free. So that was a very dyslexic type of thing, because I have not so great short-term memory at times. And there was always a lot going on. I figured out a system and a way to cover my own keister. And while I was covering my own behind in the process, it wound up being immensely beneficial to the business, to the point that other people started doing something similar, because it made it easier for everybody else as a whole. That's an example of dyslexic innovation, because I do see and think things through differently and see patterns and recognize ways to avoid pain, and then implement those types of things. It can be immensely beneficial for businesses. So as an unconventional or different thinker, I just want to remind you, it's not always going to look the same, and you might start in a direction that you're not, might not feel like it's going to be profitable or beneficial. You'll be surprised at how that can lead to profit and innovation and efficiency down the road. So trust your gut is what I'm saying. You are a different thinking brain. Remember, you're about 10 to 15% of the general society. So people are going to question why you're doing something. They're going to question, like, does that kind of make sense? If your gut says that it does, and you believe it'd be beneficial for your team, for the people that you're leading, trust that gut, stand in that space, and make that happen. I'm Georgina, unconventional leadership coach, international neurodiversity coach, and really strong leader in my dyslexic strengths and differences. Bye now.